So now we write our smart contract, which is called whitelist.sol, and yeah, just bare minimum, and from this particular code base. So let's write it. So the uint8, it is a type. Okay, as you know, in every languages we have data types, and in Solidity we have this data type which is called uint integer, and so we can easily assume that the range of this variable is 2 raised to 8 numbers. Yeah, and the public. So the public, what is public? So public is a modifier into a solidity, which makes this particular thing as a public. So anyone can call this. We can call this particular thing within the contracts, and anyone from outside the contract is also called these kinds of functions and variables. So that's what a public means. And now let's name it as uh, how let's name it variable, and let's say we call it as max white listed uh, white listed addresses. Okay, so basically we're trying to how many users, how many people you just want to uh, logged into your application. Let's say if you're creating the NFT collections in a later videos, and you want only 100 people can join your collections, as or only 100 people can get the early access, so you can define this particular number over here. Okay, and remember one thing, anything the integer which is the by default value into the solidity is 0. Okay, so let's create a mapping. Then what is mapping? So if you know about the other languages, mapping is exactly is equals to, so mapping is exactly is equals to dictionary. So with this the syntax is the first parameter is a key, and the other parameter, the other thing is its value, and again the name, and again the public modifier, which is, yeah. So whitelisted, as again we call this dictionary a whitelisted dictionary. So whitelisted, like whitelisted, let's say, or the addresses dictionaries, I should say. Addresses, yeah. Okay, so whitelisted addresses is the name of dictionary. So this is something looks like this. So we have address, and we have true or false in its, yeah. So if any kind of address, let's say my address is this. So if I registered into this website, so I got the true variable over there. And if you got into this website and you had this address, you got this true as well, or the false. Yeah. So basically Boolean is all about true and false. Yeah, basically. So, and if you can see like how this auto completion work because of this GitHub Copilot, and that's why it is coming. But let's shut it down because how to stop this. Okay, let's leave it. Okay. So other thing is, the next thing is unit public number address whitelisted. Number address whitelisted would be used to keep track of how many addresses have been whitelisted. So basically, we are using this variables to keep tracks of how many people are already registered into a website. So let it down. Let's say there are 100 maximum people, and you want to track it. Okay, how many people are already registered? Like 10 or 20. You can use this kind of this variable for that. Okay, so let's write it down. Uint 8 public number addresses white listed. So again the same thing, you int public and the number of addresses that you want to keep track of, like how many people registered into your website. And now the other thing is constructor. So what is constructor? In constructor, what happens? The constructor runs only once whenever we deploy this contract. This is a function which basically runs when we deployed our contract. So it expecting some sort of parameters. So we are trying to like max whitelisted address. I don't know how it is able to complete those code, but yeah. So GitHub is Copilot is able to complete my code. So let's use it. So yep. So here we are using max whitelisted addresses as a parameter, and again we define it. We don't have to need to define public over here because yeah, we don't want to call it because it's only runs when we deploy our contracts. So maximum whitelisted is equals to whitelisted address. So okay, why we're using it? As you can see, this max whitelisted address is our state variable, and you want to initialize your state variable with whenever you deploy this contract. So let's say whenever you deploy this contract, you send the number of people you want to whitelisted. It means how many people you were allowed it to get whitelisted. So here you can send it. Let's say I just want 100 people to get into my NFT collections when they become my earlier adopters. So this number we send it and we use it as here as a whitelisted address globally in everywhere. Okay, so this is our state variable, and this is basically act as the function variable, normal variables, which we cannot use it outside here. The other function is as we can see, we want the people to register with their accounts, and we want to allow them to get into our mappings. So how we can do that? So for that we write a function. So it's already, if you want to write your own function, you have to use keyword called function, and then the name of our function. So the name of the function is add addresses whitelist. Add addresses to whitelist, and again the public. So again the public, always remember the public is a modified into this already, which helps you to call this kind of functions, the variable outside the context, inside the context, from anywhere we can call these kinds of functions here. So again, and okay, so now what is this requires means? So requires is basically a very simple and very easy way already to check something. It is basically act as a if else condition. So the first in required, the first thing is you have to write the condition, and other thing you can send the message. So whenever this conditions becomes true, you call this, you send this message. Okay, so in here in our case, if whitelisted, let's see the condition. If whitelisted addresses, okay, dot msg dot sender. Let me explain you what do you mean by message dot sender. Okay, then it's the already whitelisted. Okay, I think sender already whitelisted. Okay, so now let's understand what this required statements does. So first statement is, always remember, it's a condition, and the second thing is the message. So whenever this conditions becomes false, whenever this condition becomes true, we call this message. Okay, so let's say in our address, as we can see, this is a dictionary. As I explained you earlier, this is a dictionary. So to acquire the value of that dictionary uses the square brackets and the key. So as you can see, we used address as our key, and into this already what happens, the message is a global variable which provides by the Ethereum itself. It is always representing a person who calls this particular function. Let's say if I call the function, then message.sender is my address, and if you call the function, then msg.sender is your address. So basically this act as a key, as we can see into our mappings. So whenever this whitelisted or address, this returns something. So let's say it is whitelisted address returns something. If the address is not there, it returns what? It returns false. So false becomes true, and uh, basically what happens here is so basically this checks if we are already registered, then the message will comes into pop-ups, which is called you are already registered. Yeah. As you can see, I have this yellow line under this, and which is called function state mutability can be restricted to view. So just add it as well. And what does it mean? It means whenever you're not playing with any kind of state, okay, just leave it, because I think we're using state thing. Okay, just leave it for that. Now come to the next line, which is again we are using required, and again we are checking some conditions, which is the condition is the number of address whitelisted number. So we are using a number of address whitelisted uh, is less than. It should be, I guess it should be the less than the maximum number of. Okay, so let's say you only around 100 people to register into your website, and now the member were trying to join into your website, and the number exceeded this number exceeded, because every time you're already plusing it. You can see whenever you add a new user, we plus this particular number. So you don't want to do any kind of statements, because you already got your top 100 users. Okay, so with this you can check that as well, and you again set the message, which is called what kind of message that we provided. Okay, the max whitelisted address is already reached. Okay, so yeah, it's pretty much doing really great by Copilot. Yeah. So whitelisted, and as you can see, we have to update our if these two conditions were passed. Okay, it means we are not getting these kinds of messages. It means now that the member which comes to our website is a new member, and it is also less than the maximum number, the number of addresses whitelisted. Okay, so we are into that range as well. So whitelisted addresses dot message dot sender, as I already said, is someone the address of someone who sends this, who calls this particular function, and we set it to the true because the value which we set only it's boolean. Okay, so yes, and this is how we, and now at the end we also increases the number plus plus. So this contract is really easy in terms of its functionalities, but it teaches us the basic concepts about the solidity, how why we're using the public and what is uint and what is the dictionaries or what are the mappings in solidity and how we create our own functions within the solidity. Yeah, and also really important, which is required. Remember one thing why we're using this if else or if required and if an else condition is really important because whenever each and every line of Solidity smart contracts cost your gas fees. Okay, so if it is not worth it to go proceed or go ahead of the code, you should use these kinds of checks to make sure your contracts were not going to consume a lot of gas fees. Yeah, so we can do like plus plus, and you can also do like plus is equals to one. The both we are correct way of this. So let's save this particular file, and now your smart contract is just pick. So now let's deploy this to the Ring2B network. Let's deploy it to the Ring2B network. So yeah, as they said, we have to create this deploy.js file under the script folders. So I'm just creating deploy.js, and you will be code to deploy. And now we will write some code to deploy. Okay, so let's use this thing from hardhat as I earlier tell you. We already create our packages and we all have related to hardhat. So from hardhat we imports the ethers. Let's import it ethers and write a function. Okay, so write a function which is called async. So basic, all these is a JavaScript code. So as I said, basic knowledge about the JavaScript is always helpful when you're learning about the blockchain and Solidity, etc. So Solidity is quite relatable and quite equals to in terms of coding wise. Is very similar to JavaScript. So we are using some sort of contracts which an iScript which helps us to deploy our smart contracts into the Ring2B testnet. So this is what we are trying to achieve with this particular deploy.js script. So for that, let's const and call it as a whitelist contract, call it a whitelist contract, and await.ethers.get contract. Okay, just remove it. I don't know why this thing is. So await.ethers.get contract factory. Ethers from ethers I got this particular function which is called the contract factory, and now we're using this the whitelist. Okay, so remember one thing, I am sure that whitelist is the name of this particular contract. Okay, so whatever you name this thing, we have to name this thing exactly this. If I, let's say if I name it as abcd, then you have to name this thing as abcd. So whitelist here is factory of instance of the whitelist contract. So we are creating a whitelist contract, which is with the help of get country factory of ethers, which we are importing from the hardhat. And now okay. So let's see. Okay. So now how we call this construction? How you gonna send this value to your constructor? As you can see, this runs whenever we deploy this particular smart contract. So for that, we have to send max whitelist address, and with hardhat we can do it like this. So let's write this function const deploy deploy whitelist contract. Deploy whitelist contract is equals to await whitelist contract dot deploy, and now you can send the number of people which register. Let's say I want to allow 20 users into my website. So this max whitelisted address is set it to the 20 whenever I deploy this function. Okay, so this line does that. So Now wait for it finish, and now we have to deploy minted contract, whatever, deploy whitelisted contract, deploy whitelisted contract to deployed. Okay, now this we call on this particular variable, we call a function called deployed, and it deployed to our testnets. Okay, let's deploy whitelisted to deployed. Okay, so this is how we call it, this function. And print address to deployed. Okay, so we can also in hardhat, this is really we can also console.log. Whenever it is done, we got the after deploying it, we got this deploy contact object, and in this we call the addresses. Okay, so now we also get the address. Okay, what is an address of our smart contracts, and we console it log out here. So this is the function which is called the main functions. And now let's call the main functions. And how to call the main function? We call it as main, and this is the way of calling it. As you can see, this is a asynchronous functions. We can call a then statement here. So okay, how this asynchronous javascript is working is, so whenever you're trying to get something, you have to wait for a while. Okay, so whenever, let's say, this get factory function is doing internally, is doing some operations which take some times. Okay, which is taking some time, and that's what you have to wait for a while to this function is completed. Again, when we are trying to deploy it, we are sending it to our main nets, and there it's also taking some time. And whenever you deploy it, we also it took some times, and that's why we're using await over here. And we're able to use await because here we are the function is an asynchronous function which we define with the help of this particular keyword. Okay, so that's why we are able to use the awaits and the await because of this asynchronous keyword. And this function is a asynchronous function. That's why we call a then on it. So what happens whenever this runs, and whenever this functions comes over here, it means that its functionality completed. We call a then on it, and with the help of then, we can do a certain kind of operations. Okay, so whenever this means whenever the main functions being executed. Okay, when this ends over here. This means when this function ends at this stage, you call this callback. Okay, you call this callback, which we are calling it as process.exit. Yeah, which means end everything. The process.exit, it means whatever it is happening, just exit that process. And if that, in that case, if anything wrong happens, if the error, we can also cache the error as well. Okay, so this is all about catching, how we can catch an error. So console dot log our error file, and we call it as process exit as one. So this is the deploy script. And basically when we try to build any kind of smart contracts, let's say if I create a data.sol file, here I come, and in this place I can provide it a data file, and it works the same way. Yeah. But here we want to deploy our whitelist contracts. So this is a way of deploying your smart contract which used over here to the mainnet. Yeah, to the testnets. So now you now create a .env file. So let's create an env file to storing our RPC address, or actually the URL which we are trying to with the help of which we are uploading our contracts to the event testnet. So let's do that as well. So inside this we have welcoming URL, and the other one is a ring key, private key. So let me tell you from where you get these two things as well. Okay, so inside .env file, which is the main file. Okay, let's use it inside this. Okay, inside this smart home contracts env file. Yep. Yeah, so this is inside this folder. Okay, so this is here, this lives here. Okay, so from where, okay, so just go to the alchemy, just go search for the alchemy dashboard or whatever it is. Just search for the alchemy over the internet, log in, create an account, and you got your dashboard. And from there just copy your so from here, guys, just create an app, select your Rinkeby testnet over there, and click on the app, and you got your key from there. Okay, so just view your queue, and I can't I don't show you my key, but we can do in a similar way and get your keys. Okay, which is an HTTP URL. Let me save it to somewhere. Well, I think I deleted my keys after this video. So yeah, and for the ring key private key, just go to your MetaMask and go to your account with the help of which account you want to deploy contract, and you can see the account details over here, and there you can export the private keys. And let me type my password and confirm it. Yeah. So yeah, this is also I'm going to delete after this particular video. So done it. And you got the private key. So with the help of the Rigby private key and with the help of Alchemy API, you have the access to call your your contracts to the Rigby testnet. So now we have completed this part, and now just install .env as well again. So inside this hardhat whitelisted dapp folder, I go to the the hardhat smart contracts, and there I installed the .env guys. So npm install .env. So, so yeah, it's done. Just go ahead. Now open the hardhat config.js file. We would add the Rinkeby network here so that we can deploy our contracts to the Rinkeby testnet. So just go to your hardhat config.file. So this is our file, and here there's a lot of uh, configuration, but there we have to change the entire thing from this to this because we're not using anything from here. Just want this particular thing. Okay, so because you can see .env.config, and we are just importing our path and everything, and console.env. Yeah, this is a way of getting your private keys into your JavaScript code. With the help of process.env, we can get our keys, and now we create the Solidity version. We are using 8.0.8 4, and the network is the ring key and the URL and the ring key. Okay, so this is the script which actually helps us a configuration file deploy our smart contracts with the help of our alchemy key and the ring key private key. So let's run this npx compile, and let's see if the things are working. So let's compile it. So things, yeah, it's already compilation finished successfully. So as you can see, our compilations is done successfully. It means there is no error within our smart contracts, and it is compiled successfully. So now it's time to deploy our smart contract to the ring test nodes. Let's deploy it npm hardx1 script slash. As you can see, we goes into this folder called script, and there we deploy. There we you call our file called deploy.js, and the network we select as Rinkeby because we are using Rinkeby private keys, and that's why we name it as Rinkeby. I think the name is coming from here, this particular keyword, so you can name it as anything, but yeah, it's good to name it as Rinkeby. So as you can see, we also in our scripts and deploy.js file, we also console log our addresses. Okay, so this is the address of our smart contract, okay, which used into your front end code to communicate with this particular smart contract. So let's copy this thing because we definitely want to use it. So let's copy this thing, and for as of now, I just save it to my env file as well. So I name as a contract address as this thing. So I just save it as the smart contract address. Now website, and now it comes to create a website. So in web world, there are two main the framework which we are using is React and the nextjs. So in this particular video, we are like the nextjs and React are more or less very similar frameworks. They are actually, the nextjs is called as the production framework for React. So that's why we are using the nextjs into this particular. React is a JavaScript framework used to make a website, and nextjs is a React framework that also write backend APIs code along with the front end, so you don't need to separate front end backend services. So yeah, so Next.js is quite powerful. That's why we're using the Next.js for this application. So yeah. So as you can see, we have this one folder which is called the hardhat smart contract folder. And so now create another folder which is for our for our the Next.js application. Okay, so I don't know about this particular npmx thing. So what I used is let's okay. So let's go. I'm not aware about these commands, so for that I used to go to the Next.js official documentation, Next.js installation, go to installation. Let's see what are those commands. Yep, npx create. Okay, so these are the commands. Okay, I basically always use yam, but for this project, I'm gonna use npm latex. Okay, so let's use this command. So what's the name of the project you want to give it out? Let's say I want to call it as the hardhat whitelist app again. I should dapp. This is the hardhat. Okay, I think basically I gave it the same. It's called the whitelist app. Let's say the whitelist app. So now it's installed everything for this particular Next.js tool. So yep, it's done. Let's see. We have this another folder which is called the WL. Let's go into this WL tab on the tool. Go from here. Just check it from here itself. So yeah, we have this smart contract folder and we have this called the whitelist tab folder. And here is an every package, everything related to the Next.js. So let's run it. If everything is works, yarn run def. So which this opens our okay. So basically, I have to get into this Next.js folders, and there I have to yarn run def. Just go to this particular folder, which is called the localhost 3000, because this app is running on this particular tool. So I just open localhost and let's see if everything works or not. So as I said earlier in this video, we also gonna deploy our application to the vercel. So when it is done, let's open the vercel.com, and you just have to register with your GitHub account. Yeah. So yeah, you have to okay. So I guess from GitHub, you have to also set up a GitHub first of all. So leave it this for a while. Let's do it later this step. So basically it is taking some time, but yeah, it is now it's compiled successfully. And now you can see we have an up and running a bare minimum Next.js applications. All this page, all this, everything is coming from the index.js file. So let's edit this file for a while. Just go to the pages folder, go to the index.js file. This is a main file, which is serving this particular page. So let's delete everything and let's see what happens. Let's see what happens when we delete this particular tags and all those things. So let's delete everything from here, from this main and everything. Let's put it as well. Okay, I have also deleted this main as well. So as you can, this is a hot reload feature of Next.js. So whenever I change something and save the file, it's automatically updates the UI itself. So as you can see, I deleted everything. Let's write down whitelist tab. So whenever, yeah, you can see H1, H2 is just whatever it is, just write it down as well. And all those stylings, everything is coming from this particular called home module.css folder, which is coming from this styles and all this. So if you want to change anything related to this file, you can update this module. Let's say if I want to change the color or anything else, let's say if I want to change the background color, so I just change a background color from here to red. And as you can see, the application, the background of this whole thing changes from there. Yeah, so I don't want to make it actually I love this color white smokish color, so I just want smokish. So this is the color which I'm using right now. If anything related to the global, which means everywhere you want to change it, you change it into this particular folder file. Okay, so it's whenever you try to change a styling which is affects the whole website using the global.css file, and but if you're using this individual pages like home.modules or about.module.css, so then that works specific to that particular page. So yeah, this for this videos, and in the next video we create a GitHub repo and try to and we connect our smart contract code with the Next.js applications. Thank you for watching, guys. Bye.